We tend to think of reality in terms of particles and waves. But what if that's just the surface level? What if, way down beneath quantum mechanics, there's a fundamental source code, a geometric blueprint that tells everything, from the smallest particle to the largest galaxy, exactly how to exist? Well, that's exactly what we're diving into today.
So let's just jump right in with a question that really gets to the heart of it all. What if the world we see and touch, the world we experience every day, is just the output, a projection on a screen, while the real action is happening somewhere much deeper, at a hidden level?
Probably the best way to wrap your head around this is with a video game analogy. What we perceive as physical reality, that's the image on the screen. Quantum physics? Well, that's like studying the individual pixels that make up the image. But this model we're exploring suggests we can go even deeper, past the pixels, to the underlying source code, the actual geometric wireframes that tell those pixels where to go and what to do. That code, that's what we're calling subquantum geometry.
All right, so what is this source code really? Let's get into what these subquantum geometries are and how they supposedly form the very fabric of our existence. The key thing to get here is that these geometries aren't just some abstract math concept on a blackboard. In this model, they're literally informational templates. Think of them like invisible wireframes that dictate the fundamental rules for energy and matter. They are the pre-physical patterns that energy has to follow to become everything that we see around us.
Okay, but having a code is one thing. You need an engine to actually run it, right? So what's the engine that takes these incredible geometric blueprints and actually projects them as our physical reality? Well, the answer, according to this model, lies in a really fundamental duality.
And this is where things get really interesting. Because the core engine we're talking about, it isn't a machine with gears and pistons. No, it's a dynamic, cosmic dance between two opposing realms, what the source material calls space and counterspace.
So here's how that tension plays out. You've got space, which is the world we know. It's outward, it's expanding, it's the realm of matter. Its geometry is what we call Euclidean. You can think of it like a fixed, rigid grid. But counterspace is its total opposite. It's an inward, suctional realm of pure potential. Its geometry isn't fixed, it's projective, meaning it's all about relationships and perspective. It's not a physical place you can go to, but it's the invisible source from which energy is literally drawn into our world to create form.
And the model gives us this absolutely perfect analogy to make it all click. You cannot have the whirlpool without both the water, space, and the suction of the drain, counterspace.
Okay, let's really break that down. The water just sitting in the tub, that's our physical space. It's the medium. The drain, that's counterspace, that invisible point of inward pull. Now, when they interact, you don't just get random chaos. You get a stable, organized pattern, the whirlpool. And in this model, that whirlpool is a particle. It's a form of energy created and held together by the constant pull from that unseen.
Okay, so we've got a geometric code, and we have this engine of creation. But what's the actual stuff reality is made of? If space and counterspace are the forces doing the work, what are the fundamental building blocks they're actually working with? Well, that brings us to this idea of koilons. Think of them as the smallest possible knots or vortexes of energy. They form right at that intersection where the inward pull of counterspace meets the outward pressure of space, creating a tiny, stable little whirlpool. These are the fundamental stitches in the fabric of the entire universe.
I just love this analogy because it makes things so incredibly clear. The ether, or the fabric of spacetime, isn't some smooth, empty sheet. It's more like a woven tapestry or a giant knitted sweater. And each and every individual stitch in that cosmic sweater is one of these koilons, a tiny loop of energy holding the whole thing together.
But here's where it gets, well, completely mind-bending. These fundamental stitches, these koilons, they aren't just simple little knots. As we zoom in on them, we don't find some solid, fundamental surface. We find something else entirely. A universe of absolutely infinite complexity.
So let's dive into the two concepts that give this cosmic fabric its infinite depth and, kind of paradoxically, its ultimate unity. This is where we get into fractal geometry and a truly wild theory about the nature of all matter.
First up is a type of fractal geometry called a Cantor set. And look, don't worry about the complex math here. Just focus on the absolutely wild implication. The geometry of each and every stitch in reality is infinitely self-similar. That means every particle is made of smaller versions of itself, which are made of even smaller versions, on and on and on, forever. Its structure all the way down.
So what does that mean?
The crucial takeaway here is that this gives reality an effectively infinite resolution. The universe never runs out of detail. You literally can't zoom in so far that you just find nothing. Instead, all you find is more structure, more pattern, more information woven right into the fabric. The ether is never, ever empty.
Now, if this whole fabric is woven together from these stitches and they're all part of one continuous, information-rich field, well, that leads to an absolutely staggering idea championed by physicists like John Wheeler and Jean-Emile Chorin.
It's called the one-electron universe theory. And yeah, it sounds like something straight out of science fiction until you actually hear the logic behind it. Physicists like Wheeler proposed it to neatly explain things like why all electrons have the exact same mass and charge. The theory suggests that every single electron and positron is actually the same electron, just on a path that zigs and zags through all of space-time. It creates the illusion of countless particles, but really it's just one entity, weaving the entire fabric of existence.
So, this is how these two incredible ideas just locked together perfectly. The one electron is the single continuous thread, and the coilons? They're the individual stitches that the thread makes as it weaves the sweater of reality. It's one substance creating countless structured forms.
All right, so what's the big takeaway from all of this? I mean, if reality really is built on some kind of geometric source code, woven from a single thread into an infinitely detailed fabric, what on earth does that mean for us?
Well, this is where it stops being just a philosophical exercise. The huge implication here is that if the universe operates on an informational basis, then learning the language of its program, that's the key to interacting with reality on a much, much more fundamental level.
And this is where the theory just takes a leap into some truly radical, though I gotta say highly speculative, applications. Imagine a kind of computing that manipulates entire fields of possibility, not just ones and zeros. Or a way to directly transfer information as pure geometric concepts, completely bypassing language. This framework even speculates that by understanding the geometric underpinnings of society, you could maybe program the field to help resolve systemic conflict.
Which, of course, leaves us with one last, really provocative question to think about. If the universe is a projection based on a geometric code, a vast program running on the engine of space and counterspace, who or what are the programmers?